There are three characters on the right of the House of Commons who I think constantly come in for question. Farage is, of course, there, Kemi Badenoch, and Suella Braverman. Badenoch's tenure as Conservative Party leader has been marked by a string of administrative blunders, tone-deaf pronouncements, and a general air of chaotic amateurism that calls into question not just her political instincts but her basic competence. The latest revelation that Rishi Sunak actually remained the legal leader of the Conservative Party for months after Badenoch's supposed ascension is just... It's not just an embarrassing bureaucratic oversight, but a damning indictment of her ability to manage even the simplest of political transitions. Apparently she's also frightened of giving interviews. That it was Labour rather than anyone in her party who noticed the mistake only underscores the point the Conservative Party under Badenoch is so internally disoriented that it cannot even execute a procedural handover without external intervention. And this episode sort of epitomises what G.K. Chesterton warned against in his famous parable of the fence. Chesterton's lesson was simple. Before tearing down a structure that appears redundant, one must first understand why it was erected in the first place. And Badenoch, much like Suella Braverman and Farage, prefers to barrel ahead without such considerations, casting aside tradition and institutional knowledge in favour of what she perceives as instinctive political bravado, and she doesn't understand what she's doing. The result, blunder, 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 that not only expose personal incompetence, but also diminish public trust in the party that she claims to lead. Braverman's recent call for a Home Office inquiry into the rapid mobilisation of pro-Palestinian demonstrations on October the 7th exemplifies the same impulsive approach. Rather than weighing the legal evidentiary standards required for such an inquiry, Braverman leapt to insinuations of terrorist collusion, seemingly oblivious to the complex realities of political activism and police coordination. And while her instincts for populist outrage may resonate with a certain faction of right-wing press, they also illustrate a lack of strategic foresight, reinforcing her growing reputation as a liability rather than a stateswoman. And meanwhile, there's Farage, the perennial political escape artist who continues to evade similar scrutiny despite equally reckless pronouncements. His ability to bluster his way through controversy remains unmatched, largely because his political brand is built on performance and defiance rather than actual governance, and Farage has never had to endure the rigours of high office. He's a disruptor, not an administrator. Consequently, he's immune to the kind of operational missteps that now dog Badenoch and that dog Braverman, simply because he's never been expected to oversee anything more complex than a televised rant. The stark difference between Badenoch and Farage lies in their respective political narratives. Farage thrives on a sense of perpetual insurgency. Badenoch, in contrast, has tried to inherit the legitimacy of an established party, but instead has revealed herself incapable of wielding its machinery. It's not Starmer who couldn't run a bath, it's Badenoch. And the Tories, already weakened by a crushing electoral defeat, cannot afford another leader whose primary skill is courting outrage rather than demonstrating competence. And yet that's precisely what they have. They have a leader who is posturing like Farage, and without even the flair. There are already whispers within the Conservative Party that Badenoch's days are numbered, and they are. If the leadership question is reopened, it will likely be another rushed and reactive affair, a hallmark of a party that has become more preoccupied with ideological purity than with basic function. And the very fact that the Conservatives find themselves in this predicament, without a clear strategy, without a proper leader, facing existential threats from Reform UK, who similarly is led by a drongo, and the Conservatives don't have a leader who cannot even ensure a smooth transition of power, it suggests that Chesterton's fence has already been dismantled. What remains is not a brave new landscape, but a political wasteland where impulse trumps intellect, where administrative gaffes are the defining feature of oppositional leadership. I mean, frankly, if I had been in the Conservative Party, I would have begged Rishi Sunak to stay on, because actually, although he wasn't a terribly good Prime Minister, he was an excellent leader of the opposition. And if Badenoch truly wishes to salvage her political career, she must start by recognising the limits of instinct, the necessity of expertise, the importance of doing her homework and actually reading the brief. Leadership is not simply about sound bites and slogans. It requires an understanding of institutional structures, the careful navigation of policy, and the ability to anticipate rather than merely to react. And until she learns that lesson, she will continue to be a source of embarrassment rather than inspiration, an accidental leader who by her own hand may dismantle what little remains of the Conservative Party.